Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie Falens. I am a nutrition education consultant with the California Department of Social Services, and welcome to the first quarterly California Farm to ECE Community of Practice. We're so happy that you're able to join us today. This webinar series is hosted by 3 California state departments: the Department of Social Services, or CDSS, the Department of Public Health, or CDPH, and the Department of Food and Agriculture, or CDFA. We are also joined by 2 guest speakers, Jennifer Murphy from Center for Healthy Communities and Lena Vong from Asian Pacific Islander Forward Movement. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll address as many questions as we can at the end of this webinar. But for questions that we cannot get to, we will send out a Q&A document to all participants. And just so you know, this webinar will be recorded and posted on our department website. Next slide, please. And so this is our team. Amy Garfinkel and Sophia Reamer-Bope are both from the California Department of Food and Agriculture. Monet Parham Lee is from the California Department of Public Health. And then, next slide, please. Myself and Jennifer Kuo are from the California Department of Social Services. And now I'll pass it off to my colleague Amy for a quick icebreaker.
Thank you, Maddie. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. It's so wonderful to have you here. So just to get us started and kind of get to know each other, we have a few questions for you. So if you're comfortable in the chat, please share your name, your organization or maybe county in the state, and your role. And then if you are up for this icebreaker question and would like to partake, we'd love to hear from you. What is your dream trivia category? So it could be anything, and we'd love to hear from you in the chat. And thanks, Julie, for putting that in the chat. So helpful. Hi, Summer, welcome. Welcome, Joshua. Those are great categories. Awesome. Hi, Veronica, welcome. Hi, Cornell. Oh, we have 2 people so far who've said sports. Seems like a popular category. Welcome, Yuli. 3 people said sports. I love it. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Hi, Holly. So nice to have you all here. Ooh, I think I missed one. Oh, TV shows? Awesome. Oh my gosh, now they're coming fast. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh my gosh, Disneyland. That's a good one. Thank you, everyone. Please continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. This is so much fun to meet all of you. And I'm going to pass it off to our next speaker. Let me go to the next slide, but please continue to introduce yourselves in the chat as we go.
Hey, good afternoon, and thanks again for joining us today. My name is Monet. I'm with the California Department of Public Health, the Nutrition and Physical Activity branch. We primarily operate 2 initiatives that relate to Farm to ECE, and these include the CalFresh Healthy Living Program, which is funded by USDA, through which we implement SNAP-Ed in partnership with local health departments in all California counties. As part of this effort, CDPH provides technical assistance, training, and resources, and many of these departments work with partners in the ECE setting and or implement Farm to School or Farm to ECE activities. We also implement the State Physical Activity and Nutrition Program, also known as SPAN, funded by CDC. SPAN is a 5-year grant program that began last September of 2023, and as part of SPAN, among other things, CDC requests that California work to enhance Farm to ECE, and so part of what we're doing in partnership with these other state departments is an effort to do that. Planned partners for SPAN as we go forward include the California Departments of Agriculture and Social Services, the CACFP Roundtable, and First Five Santa Clara County. Thank you, and again, welcome.
Hi, everyone. So our department, at the Department of Social Services, we have an initiative called Farm to CACFP. And so Farm to ECE is a subcategory within Farm to CACFP. And our team provides technical assistance, resources, and training to our CACFP operators. And we want to highlight the amazing work that you are doing in Farm to CACFP or Farm to ECE. So we would love to hear your success stories and pictures. So please submit them to our email address that we'll drop into the chat so that you can be highlighted in upcoming CDSS publications. And any questions that you have, feel free to send them to our team, and we'll drop our webpage and contact information into the chat. Next slide, please. And we also have what's called the Preschool Shines Initiative program, and it's a voluntary recognition program for CACFP childcare centers and daycare homes who support the health and well-being of children. And one key element of Preschool Shine is Farm to CACFP or Farm to ECE participation. So we encourage you all to check out the initiative and to apply to become recognized. Some of the benefits of becoming a Shine site is that you receive a certification of recognition and to post at your site. You also, your site name will be listed on the CDSS website. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to our team and we'll drop our webpage and contact information into the chat. Excuse me. Next slide, please. And then finally, we are celebrating CACFP Week in March 10th through 16th. And this is a campaign to raise awareness of CACFP and how it works to feed 1.9 billion meals to infants, children, and adults yearly. So find out how you can celebrate with us. Visit our CDSS CACFP Week webpage. And again, we'd love to highlight your site if you're participating in Farm to CACFP or Preschool Shine. Send us your success stories and pictures to our email address that we'll drop into the chat. And now I'll pass it off to Amy to share about her work at CDFA.
Thank you so much, Maddie. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy, and I'm here with my colleague, Sophia. We're two members of the California Farm to School team at the California Department of Food and Agriculture. So I'm going to start just by sharing a few of the statewide farm to school activities that we have going on. So the first is that we do a quarterly farm to school community of practice call. So kind of like this one, but about farm to school. So K-12, but also ECE is a welcome part of those calls as well. So if you're interested in those calls, that brings me to the next statewide activity, which is our monthly Farm to School e-newsletter. So in that newsletter, we include updates like these calls when they're coming up and the registration link, as well as other things like grant opportunities and events and project highlights related to Farm to School and Farm to ECE. So we're going to put that link in the chat if you're interested in that newsletter and those updates. Similarly, we have an Instagram. So if you're interested in seeing project highlights from Farm to School and Farm to ECE projects across the state, then that is another opportunity to receive updates. And then the fourth statewide activity is a biennial conference. So every 2 years, there was just a Farm to School conference this past fall, and planning to have another one in a couple of years. So yeah, we'd love to get to know you more through these statewide activities, and I'll pass it off to Sophia.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, so in addition to our state activities, we also have regional activities. So we have 2 staff members in each of the regions that are shown on this map on this slide. And our role as regional staff is to help build up our Farm to School and ECE networks. And we do that by trying to meet with tons of different partners within our regions to figure out who's there and what we can offer each other to help each other. So then when you come to us as an ECE site and say you want to like start a garden or do a farm visit, we can connect you to the appropriate partner for your goals. And in addition to partnerships, we can share resources, different funding opportunities as they arise, and just be a thought partner for you in your work, share best practices, and help you reach your goals. And in addition to that, we also can help with the local purchasing side. So if you want to purchase from a local farmer, we can help connect you to someone appropriate in your area based on what you're looking for, and help with that local purchasing process as well. All right, next slide, please. And then something very exciting, our Farm to School Incubator grant. So we are on the 3rd cycle of our grant, and this image is a little dated because our 2023 grant is open right now. It opened last week, and it will be open until April 4th at 5 p.m. Pacific. And we do have a track for Farm to ECE, and there are 2 buckets of money within that track, one for ECE centers and one for support organizations that provide technical assistance to centers and family child care homes. So if you want to learn more about that opportunity, check out the website in the chat. And there we have the RFA, we have the recording of our info session, and we have weekly Q&As that you can sign up for. And I'll pass it back over to Monet to introduce our panelists.
Okay, thank you so much, Sophia. In the interest of time, I'll introduce both of the presenters at the same time. First up, we're going to hear from Lena Vong, who is a program manager with the API Forward Movement's Food Roots Nourish Initiative, where she leads farm to school programs in the West San Gabriel Valley in Koreatown to foster gardening and culinary literacy skills with young children and their parents. Lena's passion for food led her to pursue health supportive cooking professionally, followed by completing a master's degree in food studies at NYU. In her free time, you can find Lena searching for LA's best breakfast burrito, playing pickleball with her friends, or being endlessly entertained by her toddler. Very consistent with the work that we're talking about today with Farm to ECE. And following Lena, we'll hear from Jennifer Murphy, the project director with the Chico State Center for Healthy Communities, where she's been since 2010. She's a registered dietitian and holds a bachelor's degree in nutrition food science and a master's degree in nutrition education from California State University, Chico. Her background is in community nutrition, nutrition counseling, teaching, health promotion, and food safety. And as part of her roles with the center, she has worked on a variety of programs, including CalFresh Healthy Living and CDC supported efforts. She's a mom of 2 teenage girls, keeping her busy with basketball and softball games. So again, first up, we'll welcome Lena. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Monet. And thank you all for having me here today. So excited to be in community with you all. So Asian Pacific Islander Forward Movement works together with local community members to ensure that everyone has healthy food to eat, clean air to breathe, and safe places to live and play. Like Monet said, I'm the program manager for our Food Roots Nourish program area. I also help oversee our CalFresh outreach team. Our Food Roots Harvest group provides culturally relevant community food distributions across LA, as well as lead healthy living workshops like Thai chair to elders in LA's Chinatown. And then our Sustainable SGV team leads clean air, water, greening, and pedestrian safety advocacy initiatives in the San Gabriel Valley. If you could go to the next slide. So for our Farm to School program, we try to incorporate as many different styles of learning into our curriculum as possible to create multi-sensory and play-based learning experiences whenever possible. So in the top left, Here's an example of us doing taste tests. We do taste tests as much as possible, bringing in produce from the local farmers market and comparing it to produce that we buy from the grocery store, and have kids explain what differences they taste, and try to emphasize the importance of eating the rainbow and all the different colors of every season. We also try to sing different songs for each season to highlight the different themes. We encourage kids to smell and describe everything that they see in their garden. In the top left, you see a girl enjoying the purple basil that we grew in the garden bed last spring. Between the fall and winter, we led a pickling workshop with the kids where they got to pick their seasonal vegetables. They jarred it themselves, poured the vinegar solution in. And it was to emphasize the concept of preserving food from the fall into the colder months ahead. And then in the bottom left, it's one photo. We like to host family field trips to visit local urban farms in the community to see what culturally relevant produce their neighbors are growing. There's actually a photo of my son to the right of that, and he's fascinated by the bitter melon that is being grown there. And together as a community, we're all able to harvest from that garden and experience that together. We always know it's a success when we receive text messages and emails from our partners. The photo in the top right is from one of our teachers, and they were thrilled that their fall garden was just bursting with bok choy and chives and broccoli. And then the bottom right photo we received, and that was shortly after our farm tour. A parent took their kale home and made a soup to share with their family. So it's always just so fun to see what the families are doing with the produce that we're providing.
Well, that's going to be really hard to follow. That's amazing, the work that you're doing there. Well, I'm super excited to be here also. My name is Jennifer Murphy with, again, the Center for Healthy Communities, all the way up in Chico. So if you're not familiar, we're about an hour and a half or so north of Sacramento. If you could go to the next slide, please. So the next slide is just telling the mission of who we are at CHC. I'm not going to go into reading it, but I'll just kind of summarize that we are a statewide center providing programming all the way across the state, kind of focusing on CalFresh outreach, CalFresh healthy living, senior nutrition programs, food access, all kinds of different programs, really statewide now. We have obviously a very strong partnership with Chico State since we are a nonprofit of Chico State. So we are able to utilize our Chico State students to really help us implement the programming, get those career readiness skills, help with our budget, because it's definitely easier on the budget when we have interns helping us out. So we're able to do so much more with the funding that we have. Next slide, please. We've got at the center, we're up to probably 35 to 40 different contracts now that we oversee. And to kind of simplify things, we've kind of clustered them into what we call priority areas. So the work that I'm going to speak on today falls within our community health priority area. And as I mentioned, we do a lot of CalFresh Healthy Living programming. That's CFHL if you're not familiar with that. And we are in Colusa County, Glenn County, Yuba County, and we are a subcontractor for Tehama County for their CalFresh Healthy Living program. We also work with the California Department of Aging for their CalFresh Healthy Living program, covering the planning service areas 2 and 3, which is a 10-county region. We do have a CDFA grant farm to preschoolers. And that grant is implemented at our local community college, Butte College, and at the Chico State Child Development Lab, where we're doing pre-K Harvest of the Month. So now, next slide, I'm going to get in specific to the county of why we're here today. So I'm highlighting the work that we've been doing in Colusa County. We've had 2 projects that have really allowed us to put a lot of effort into Colusa County. So the first one is that CalFresh Healthy Living Program. And with that, the main focus of our work is within that ECE setting. So we've got we've got direct education with a healthy mix of nutrition, garden, and physical activity lessons. We do a monthly harvest of the month where we do procure from a local farmer and bring that produce in. Not only do we do the tasting to ECE sites for our Harvest of the Month program, but we also go into school age kiddos as well. So I think on average, we're doing about 2,000 to 2,500 tastings every month in Colusa County. And then our policy systems and environmental strategies really focus on gardens, staff training, and playground stenciling. So what you're going to hear today with my farm to ECE work really is in that staff training and capacity building. We really wanted to put that emphasis of sustainability and how can we enable our partners to be able to do the work if we're not there. And so that's really what you're going to hear from me today. Next slide, please. So when Monet was introducing herself, she talked about the CDC grant, the SPAN grant, and we were very lucky at CHC to be one of the grantees on their previous 5-year program. So they're in a new year now, or a new cycle with CDC. So we were a grantee from the 2018 to 2023 5-year cycle. And so our ECE work fell within the strategies 3 and 5 of that project. And really it was implementing and integrating nutrition and physical activity standards into the ECE setting. So we first needed to just get an assessment and find out where are these sites at, what's kind of that base level, where do we need to go, what support do they need. So we collected these site level assessment questionnaires to help inform the work. We found that they were very lacking in their gardening, and so we were able to provide curriculum and training on that curriculum to help increase nutrition, feeding practices, and physical activity instruction. We also were able to step in and help support indoor and outdoor play spaces to increase physical activity. And then, of course, we're always providing resources to teachers. We want our partners to feel confident and equipped to teach the nutrition and the physical activity lessons. Next slide. The essence of time, I'm going to kind of breeze through this slide really quick, but we did utilize the CDC Spectrum of Opportunities as that framework to promote our obesity prevention intervention, and we really did focus on the sites that were participating in the child and adult care food program. So we've really focused on getting those sites comfortable to be able to do the work. So I didn't spell out the acronym TTT, but that stands for Train the Trainer. And that was a model where we were training staff to be able to then be trainers and to train their staff. Next slide, please. So what did our work look like? We partnered with Colusa County Office of Education, Children's Services Department. Within this department is where all the Head Starts, the early Head Starts, migrant Head Starts, resource and referral networks are all housed within this, this division here. I've been working with Colusa County Office of Education for years with my CalFresh Healthy Living funding as well. So we use the Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go curriculum. If you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend you go check it out. It is a fantastic resource. They also have a curriculum for grades 2 through 5 as well. So lots of resources there. We were able to purchase materials for garden builds. So all of the sites and classrooms within Colusa County Office of Ed had a garden. That included the actual frame, the soil, the irrigation, the seeds, shovels, watering cans, all the things that they might need to get those kiddos into the garden. We were also able to purchase this specific curriculum, so every classroom had it. And then again, we continued with that Harvest of the Month promotion to just, again, reinforce the message. We were able to come in with that. They were able to experience what it looks like to do a tasting. The kiddos were able to try something new every month. Maybe it was something from their garden, maybe not, but it was a consistent outreach that we did. Next slide, please. The bulk of the work was truly getting in and training staff. So if you're familiar with Head Start programs, they have the pre-service series that's done before the school year starts. Typically, like for Colusa, they do it in August, or it's a week of training for staff development. So we kind of were integrated into their pre-service series. So again, we created that train the trainer model that was very individual to them and their sites and their curriculum and their daily activity. So the components of that train the trainer included the actual presentation. We created the speaker notes. So when we provided the training, they were able to, one, experience the information, but also experience how to train somebody else. So with those speaker notes included, that really helped them be able to further do those trainings. And then we had a facilitation manual that just broke down the who are you teaching, why are you teaching it, what do you need to teach, what are the materials needed, the actual presentation, and then any resources that were mentioned throughout the training were also included in that facilitator guide. Objective of the garden training really was to just start at that base level and just review the knowledge of the benefits of gardening in that preschool setting. Really learn how to integrate the garden into their current classroom or into their current class schedule, receive all of those resources, and then they got to get that curriculum. Next slide, please. Again, we really made it specific to this site. We really stressed how can they include any kind of garden education into just their daily classroom. So how can they integrate the garden into their math? How can it get integrated into science and phonics and colors and shapes? We wanted to make it as easy as possible and give them all the information and just try to hit all of those touch points that they have throughout that day with those kiddos, and how can the garden be part of it? Next slide. So here's the fun part. Here are these kiddos. Unfortunately, I didn't get media releases on them, so I had to put little fruits and vegetables over their faces. But here are just some great pictures of the kids in the gardens that we were able to purchase, getting them involved in it. Next slide, I've got some more photos. I think these ones are my favorite, these carrots. I wish you could see the smiles on their faces. They are huge. But they grew these, and it's just so rewarding to see. Next slide. And then again, just more, the picture on the left is just them planting the seeds, and then we're able to equip them with what they needed to water. The garden beds were short, so they were preschool height. We made it really easy for them. Next slide. I think this is my last one, so I can stay on time. Sustainability was really important. So we really wanted to make sure that these sites were able to continue to do the work. So they have been, they have their garden prep ready. They've got planting guides on when and where they need to plant certain produce. They've got that planting chart. All of the lesson plans, they're starting to coordinate with they've got this curriculum called Creative Curriculum. And so they're able to integrate all of the garden within their curriculum that they use for their full day. They're currently working with their health specialists to incorporate the pre-service garden training that we did in August, so that they can then provide that training to their current staff. And we're still there, even though the SPAN grant ended. I'm still there with my CalFresh Healthy Living hat, so I'm still able to provide training and technical assistance if they need it. We still continue to go in and provide lessons and do those policy systems and environmental change interventions. So continuing to work with them in their garden. And so it's just been wonderful to see, and it's still happening, and I'm not really having to do much. So I think that that speaks to kind of that sustainability and really that capacity building that we took that time to do. So the next slide is my contact. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want any of the resources that we created. I'm happy to share. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, both Lena and Jen, for sharing with us the work that's happening in your area. I see activity happening in the chat, so that's great. There's folks interested in what's happening. We have a few questions for both of you, and then we'll open it up for questions from the audience, if there are any out there. I'll start with the first one, and that is, what is your favorite part or your staff's favorite part of this Farm to EC effort, or the kids' favorite part? We'll start with Lena.
Sure. I mean, I would say that just experiencing the genuine enthusiasm when I just step into the classroom. And like I had mentioned before, we sing these different songs every season to emphasize that season's themes around gardening and growing and plants, and just seeing the kids remember the songs. Like, they clearly sing them after we leave. Just through doing the activities, it's really rewarding when both the teacher and the student give positive feedback. Like, one teacher that we worked with, she genuinely said, like, I didn't know it was so easy to make pickles. I'm going to go home and make pickles now too. And then a month later, when we went back and the kids opened up their jars and were trying the pickles, there were definitely some kids that winced at the tartness, but plenty of kids, I was quite surprised actually, like, went back for a third and fourth helpings of their pickles, and they were just loving it. So that part is the most rewarding for me.
Thank you so much. Jen?
I absolutely echo what Lena said. I love to see and hear that the staff are actually using the gardens, seeing the pictures come through my email. Oh my gosh, look at this carrot, was fantastic. Seeing them using the curriculum is so rewarding. So just the work that we put in to train them and get them comfortable, because I think for a lot of people it's kind of scary. They don't really know what to do. So to be able to kind of break that barrier down and train them to not make it so scary, and that it could really be a very simple intervention. It doesn't have to be anything big, but it makes such a huge impact to those kiddos. It's really neat when when that clicks and they get it. That's very rewarding for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll pass it over to Sophia for another question.
Yeah, thanks, Monet. Yeah, so the next question is also for both of you. I know you talked a little bit about this, but I'd love to hear any more thoughts you have on how you engage families and staff in your work, and if there's any sort of successful strategies that you would call out for everyone here today.
I'm happy to go first, unless you'd like to, Jennifer. Okay. Well, I guess for us, it's working with our contacts at each school site, just to learn the nuances of the community that the parents have. For one school district that we're working with, we've actually decided to since we know parents' time is so precious between working and childcare, we try to minimize the amount of different like extracurricular workshops that we hold for them. So we recently partnered with like a series of workshops that they were already hosting for their parents, hosted by like the local dietitian program. And so we're partnering together to do a joint workshop together. So that's just one example. Another is we host a combination of in-person and virtual workshops. And because of the communities that we work with, we want them to be as inclusive as possible. So we make sure that we hire interpreters that can participate to interpret all the materials that we're saying. And then I always make it a point to reach out to parents afterwards and, welcome any feedback of what they're curious about, what they'd like to learn, or even learn more about what their expertise is and have them involved in perhaps doing their own share out within their community and creating that discourse among the parent group to share their tips with each other too.
Thank you, Lena. Jennifer?
Yeah, I always feel like I take the approach of, because again, I'm more in with like the partnership building piece, and just valuing partnerships and the time that it takes to develop those partnerships and really have that trust and that rapport to kind of come in and help guide. So starting with that foundation of that solid partnership is huge, because then you're able to kind of get, I don't want to say staff buy-in, but they're open to the idea of having these trainings and bringing in the garden and really kind of guiding them to do more of that work, and just knowing that training is a component that my sites have to have. So if I can come in and help support that, it's a win-win for everybody. And so that's kind of my way of how I've been able to engage staff, is really starting at that base level of having that solid foundation of that partnership, and then knowing what they need and how can I come in and help support them, and not just trying to push my agenda has been really important.
Well, I think for the sake of time, we're gonna just go to one more question and then open it up for Q&A from everyone here. Love to hear a little bit more about funding from both of you. I know, again, we mentioned that a little bit earlier, but maybe expanding on what sort of grants, in-kind donations and other kinds of donations, partnerships that have been essential for your work. And again, kind of thinking about how that plays into other attendees here and how maybe they can access those resources.
So with API-FM, our ECE work launched back in 2017 through the Champions for Change grant. So I would say a majority of our work is funded through grants. And for me, this is my first year with API-FM, leading the Farm to School program. So a majority of that is through this grant, but I would echo what Jennifer said in terms of the importance of building partnerships or looking for those within the community. So with this specific program, I've really just been experimenting as I go, from reaching out to the local gardening nurseries, letting them know about our program, what kind of discounts they can offer us, reaching out to the local community gardens who have supplied our seedlings for the garden beds. And also just have been a wonderful resource in terms of inviting families out to community events and making people aware about what's offered just within their neighborhood. I've also even tapped into the local Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group called I think SGV plant group or something like that. And I also shared an opportunity about, or I guess I shared a little bit about our program, and I had community members offer to share like Vietnamese lemon balm or shiso from their garden and share seedlings that I've been able to incorporate because the culturally relevant aspect is so important to us, to make sure it reflects community members of the kids in our schools. Oh, another one is libraries. I love partnering with our local libraries. I think they're a wonderful resource. So with our free CSA bags that we distribute to the families every month, I have had a chance to be in touch with the local library directors, and they've been such a wonderful resource in terms of sharing seasonal, age-appropriate books. So I make it a point to include those lists of books as like little flyers with recipes that I share with the family.
Yeah, we were very lucky to be the prime contractor for CalFresh Healthy Living. So that was, it's a solid funding source that allows us to do a lot of the work that we're doing. And then being one of the SPAN grantees helped leverage that. If you're familiar with CalFresh Healthy Living funding, it could be very restrictive. And so having another funding source to be able to, again, help leverage what maybe we're not able to purchase with one funding source, we're able to do with another. So that was very helpful. But echoing what Lena said, donations are key. Like local businesses love to donate for this kind of stuff. So we've gotten seeds donated, soil donated, time, having people come and help build is huge too. So never forget the local businesses are always, not always, but the majority of them tend to be very open to giving some kind of donation. And the incubator grants are amazing. So just going back to those incubator grants, definitely look into that. And as a source of funding your work, because it's great.
Thank you both so much. Really appreciate your thoughts. It's been a really wonderful conversation. And thank you for the shout out for the incubator grants. I'll pass it over to Maddie for the Q&A.
Thanks, Sophia. So now we'll open it up to open Q&A. So feel free to continue dropping questions in the chat. I see one question, there were a few answered, so thank you to everyone who asked and answered some questions. There is one question from Ariana, and she said, what were challenges you faced implementing farm to ECE and how did you overcome them? So maybe I can ask both Lena and Jennifer to share. Lena, would you like to go first?
Sure. Well, again, since this is my first year with the Farm to ECE program, I'm learning a lot. And I think what I imagine will happen is it can vary wildly from classroom to classroom. It is so dependent on the teacher's investment and interest, like personal interest in gardening. And that has been I guess, an obvious challenge, I guess. Another is that because we're in LA, there isn't really a lot of green space at the school playgrounds where our raised garden beds are located. So the school infrastructure isn't set up to have outdoor water spigots, for example, to water the garden beds. So we've had to kind of brainstorm and troubleshoot around that and see what teachers and their students are willing to do or interested in doing in terms of maintaining their garden beds. So one solution we had for that was designing a self-watering system in a way where we lined the bottom with plastic, like a large plastic tarp and river rocks. And it's an experiment, really. So the bottom third is filled with water and slowly waters the garden bed over a period of time. But those are a few of the things that we're tackling with, and just continuing on getting parents' investment in the program too, to have them involved as much as possible. I think it's key.
Yeah, fully, again, I keep saying echo, but I echo what you say. I think some of my biggest struggles or my biggest challenges is we've been trying to do garden work for years in these sites, and I think that is why my focus has been so narrowed in on capacity building and really training staff, because we can come in and buy the garden, but if they don't know what to do with it, it's never going to get used. It's just going to sit there. So really taking the time, and it took us a bit to kind of get to that point of, oh wait, we can't just buy it and assume they're going to do it, because that's just not the way that it works. So we really needed to spend time training and equipping them with everything they need to be able to do it. So that has been the challenge, but then that's kind of how we overcame that, was really taking that time to train, buying them a curriculum, and teaching them how to use that curriculum. How can they integrate it into their daily schedule? That's really helped. It doesn't, like I said it before, it doesn't make it so scary. It kind of breaks it down in a little bit more manageable in small little pieces. So that's kind of how we kind of overcame that big challenge in our sites.
Thank you both. We do have a question that was asked earlier from a user's iPhone. We would need an actual garden to participate. I'm not exactly sure who the question was geared to. So if you'd like to unmute yourself or add more context in the chat, we can definitely answer your question. But regarding participating in Farm to CACFP, you don't need to have a garden to participate. You, just like both speakers mentioned, there's ways to create a garden or grow herbs or fruits or vegetables in your classroom without having a garden per se. So definitely there's other options, and that's not the only requirement to participate in these initiatives. Alicia says, are any programs using hydroponics to grow food? I can open it up to whoever would like to answer in the chat, or if someone wants to raise their hand, you can go into, let's see. I was able to see it, no I can't. Oh, the reactions. If you click on the reactions down at the toolbar at the bottom, and then there's an option for someone to raise their hand if you'd like to. I can speak for Farm to CACFP. We've definitely heard of programs using hydroponics to grow food. And so, yeah, if anyone has experience, I don't have personal experience with it, but we have heard of sites that have participated in that growing food. So that's an option to do as well. If anyone has participated on this call, then feel free to chime in. Any other questions? If not, maybe we can, if we have time, to ask the guest speakers maybe another panel question.
Our final question was answered. It was regarding engagement, family engagement. So we could move on to the polls.
Okay.
If there are any other audience questions.
Sounds good. Oh, someone just asked, what are some of the songs you use to promote the seasons in gardening?
So to be honest, there's songs I completely made up on my own, riffing on classic nursery songs, nursery rhymes, and making up my own songs that way. But I'm happy to share with the group for folks that are interested in.
Thanks, Lena.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joshua mentioned any grants to start up a garden program. Maybe I can turn it over to Sophia and Amy.
Yeah, so our grant is open right now, and it can fund that sort of work. But Amy, I'll maybe pass it over to you.
Oh, sure. Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, we'd encourage you to check out the Farm to School Incubator Grant Program. Track 3 is the Farm to ECE grant. So like Sophia mentioned earlier, it is open for applications right now. So we can put the link to the grant program website in the chat if you're interested in exploring it more.
Thanks, Amy. Okay, we'll move on to some poll questions. I will pass it off to Jennifer.
Great. Now let's take a poll. We have 3 poll questions for you, and Amy is going to put the poll questions on the screen, so you will see it soon. Can you see the poll questions? Let's give Amy a couple minutes.
Sorry, I'm experiencing an error. It'll take me a second. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Well, I think maybe instead we can read them out and then people can share in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is what times work best for you to attend a Farm to ECE community or practice call? And our choices are, let me look at the choices. So if you could tell us early in the morning, mid-morning, or lunchtime, or early afternoon, late afternoon, or any other time that works best for you, you can put in the chat. Okay, great. Let's go to the second question. The second question is, what kinds of peer learning opportunities would be helpful to you? Such as guest presentations, panel discussions with live Q&A, or time for idea sharing, networking, or time to dig into Farm to ECE materials, curriculum, and resources, or any other ideas. You can put your response in the chat. Okay, great. So I'm going to read the third questions. The third question is, what would you like to learn more about during the future farm to ECE community of practice calls. And let me put the choices in the chat because there are quite a few. You can see some of the choices we have for you, and you can just pick whatever topics you would like to hear in the future, or you have other ideas you can share with us. Okay, I will give everyone 30 more seconds. Then we'll move on. All right, so now I'm passing the time back to Maddie to wrap us up.
Thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, so thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to hosting additional Farm to ECE Community of Practice webinars. Please keep an eye out for future webinar dates in upcoming listservs and announcements on our department web pages. We'll also be posting the webinar recording and Q&A document on our web pages. If you have additional questions, please reach out to us. We'll copy and paste our contact information into the chat. And thank you all and have a great rest of your day.